Beloved, thinking about everything that God has shown me in these days, in some things that I ask for His wisdom to be able to understand even more, on December 30, 2017, in dreams, I saw myself being in an association. It was also an Adventist association where it was holding several activities simultaneously. The people passed by a window where they indicated their place, and at the same time, depending on where they get, a basket with hearts, chocolates, and stuffed animals was given to them. Other baskets were with pumpkins, zucchini, others with garlands, but all the baskets had something in common. They all had a stuffed bear and a stuffed bird. That was also a stuffed bear, that is, a small stuffed animal. But there was a specific bird. That bird was in all the baskets. It was what all of them had in common, and that bird was a little owl. Then they grabbed their baskets and went to the place that they were indicated. Then I saw how they began to celebrate this St. Valentine's festivities, the Friendship Day as it is Christianized, the Christianized Halloween party with masks of animals, cakes, and sweets, and also then Christmas. So when I saw this, I said desperately, Lord, how can it be? How can your people be celebrating this? So I stayed observing, and I saw in a given moment that these stuffed animals of bears and birds came to life and began to grow a little. And when they began to grow a little, they began to bite everyone who was there present, and they screamed as if it were killing them. Then when I saw this, I began to say desperately to them, Kneel, kneel, humble yourselves before God, so to obtain mercy. But they did not listen to me. I don't know if it was because the pain was so great or the desperation, but they didn't listen to me. Then my desperation was so great to want to help them because I knew this association and many of those who were there that I almost collapsed when my companion appeared and said, Let's go. It's time. Their luck is already cast. Then I said no. I begged not to leave, and that there would be an opportunity for them. But my companion told me, let's go. They knew, but they did not obey. So I was taken to a large auditorium, and someone was there on the stage and said, now we will receive His Excellency. Then he said the name, but I did not hear the name well, but his surname I did, and he said Gregory. Then my ears and eyes were opened before that person, and a character dressed in a white cassock came to the stage with a large sign like a mural and said, I am going to introduce you to the one who gave me such a great strategy. So when he said that, on that stage there was like a curtain, and behind that curtain came a dressed character. This character was dressed in a black cassock and was taller than those two who were on the stage. Then he leaned into the ear of the one in the white cassock and said something in his ear. Then he withdrew and went behind the stage curtain. At that moment, the character in the white cassock exclaimed, It's time. Our day has come. Then I saw how on this giant calendar it marked Sunday and ended by saying, Now we will rule. So we left that place and went down the stairs under that auditorium and entered a super large room. It was a large room to my amazement. It was tremendous. When I entered, I saw the enemy of souls. So then was directing in that convention of fallen angels. It is a terrible thing to see this being and how he blasphemed the name of God and cursed him at his will. So that scene was so terrible that I asked not to be there, but it was answered that it was necessary. Then I heard when the enemy said, "We have changed the names of the months and days of the years to pagan names, which are music to our ears every time they are mentioned. We have disrupted the calendar so much that they celebrate our festivals, and they have forgotten the festivals of God and said a blasphemy. So now they do not even know the time in which they live, because these mark prophecies and their fulfillments, the new moons." And he laughed broadly and continued saying, "The new moons, that even in the heaven it's being practiced every month, nor do they remember when they are and why they are. We have disrupted everything, and they run at our will," he kept saying. Then he laughed a terrible laugh, and then he stopped laughing and shouted, "Ah, but this Jehovah has not allowed us to change his weekly 7-day cycle, and this count is still being followed, but it is our time to force them to desist from this because everything else is ready. We will force them to give up this by force, and I know that many who are now half convinced will give up." Then at that moment he stopped and shouted again and began to mention the name of God in a bad way and said, "There are some who will not give up, but we will crush and kill them because it is our time." Then I could not resist any more. I could not hear that this being cursed the name of our God, who has given his life for each one of us, and who is such a great and wonderful God that he even supports us and sends us messages of love and gives us his love letter, which is his holy word, the spirit of prophecy, so that we can live with him eternally. I asked to leave that place, and it was granted. And I asked my companion, "What does the new moon mean?" "I don't understand," and he told me, "Because it will be that from new moon to new moon, and from Saturday to Saturday, all flesh will come to worship before me," said Jehovah. Then I was taken to a river. That river was so crystalline. It was so beautiful there, beloved. There was a beautiful tree. That tree was on one side and on the other of the river. It was there anchored by its roots on the two banks. So I saw there at that moment how beings came from other worlds and passed under the leaves of this wonderful tree and took 2 or 3 leaves and ate them, and each one took a fruit. Then they continued in a row to the holy city. And I asked, "What time is it?" And he said, "New moon." Then everyone was happy, and he told me, "You will do no servile work this day." So he quoted to me Isaiah chapter 66 verse 23. So before all this wonderful spectacle, we left and came to this dark planet. And I was taken to a property where some of us were there preparing for the time of not buying and selling, and a sister was with me in front of the gate of that property. And in that moment, I saw how her children entered. I recognized only one of them. She was happy to see them because everyone who entered there, for some reason, we knew that they would stay inside. Then many more entered, but there were people who had not entered, and I kind of was expecting that they will also enter. Then I went out by the gate and I kept looking, and I saw that a young man was crawling down the street. He was very battered, with an appearance of having been rudely beaten. So I ran to help him, and he was able to get in. As soon as he passed the gate, it was closed, not by my hand, but by an invisible hand, and no one else could enter. Then at that moment I saw outside the gate beloved brothers who delayed and postponed their preparation and followed behind other protocols of men. Then I began to cry when I saw them there. I wished they could enter, but they could not. That door was not closed by my hand, but a powerful hand had closed it. Then I began to cry bitterly, but nothing could be done. So we started our journey towards the mountains, helping each other because there were some helpless, others were very hurt, to spend the time appointed by God there. So while we were doing this, a question was put to me and I asked, why did those I saw on the tree of life eat leaves? Then I was told that the leaves of the tree are for the healing of the nations. And I was dictated Revelation chapter 22 verse 2. At that moment I woke up. Dear brothers, we must not delay. We must make all the preparations, whatever the cost, to get right with God, because the Lord is very close. Everything that He is indicating to us through the events that we are seeing, through His words, through all the messages that He is sending around the world by different people, is indicating that if we do not get ready, everything will catch us by surprise, because this is very close. It is at the doors. May God grant that each one of us realize this sense of urgency, and we prepare ourselves first spiritually, because it is the most important thing, and then that with firmness and goodwill, we prepare ourselves in the final phase, for the final phase of this world, because the Lord is already at the gates, and only a little more, and He who is to come will come. May the Lord bless you.